He is. And that chance doesn't come to all. You have been selected for that. He has taken the pains to come to each of you, to touch your heart, to bring you to him, because of your deep connection with him. But on our side, there's no wanting. If there had been, we could not have carried on as we're doing now. We could not have made it a continuation, because there is still wanting, if there is such a thing as wanting, to do his bidding, his will. And one knows, each one will know. He has not only provided, left guidelines. Actually, there is not anyone here who cannot say that we do not know what Baba would want. It's an everyday action, everyday life. As Eruch puts it, in the simplest and shortest way, never do anything that you would not do in Baba's presence. If he was standing there before you, and if you could see him standing there before you. Never say anything that you would not say in his presence. I don't think he's gone as far as to say never think anything, but that would be...
But how can we be anything other than ourselves in his presence? Whatever that is, we are.
But I'm trying to say to Ed that we can have, he can in his grace give us little experiences and things, but we must be able to digest it, not be carried away with it, because he gives to the pleasure of what one can digest.
I don't know what you mean by experience.
No, I'm not alluding to you personally, we're talking in general now. But I have known that it's something to what, so-and-so has had experience. We have had no experience. But what greater experience can you want than loving him? And if that is less, then that is what we have to try to do more. Because he has said, love me more and more, it will be so. Not because only of us trying, but because he has laid it down. With the authority of his being love, he has laid it down, and so it will be. That is why we witness it. We haven't done anything to make you all come here or love him or anything. And now we realize more and more when Baba says, I do my own work. And this, we're just witnessing. We've all the time been witnesses, and we still continue to be witnesses.
Baba had once said, what would please him most? To think of things that you will not hesitate to think in my presence. He said that.
Baba said
that.
It seems to me that we have to be whatever we are in his presence.
That's always we have to be in his presence.
But who can actually feel they can be themselves in his presence?
When one is not.
Because if one could actually feel,
one is completely dedicated, one has surrendered totally, one is not, only then can one be in his presence. Just as when now you all want us to recall the incidents and all that, at the time we'd never thought of such things, you see, because we were not at the time there with him. It was he who was there. His presence was so overwhelming that our presence, our being was just there. It was drowned in him. So if we can all the time be on our toes just to be with him and not be ourselves, then that is being in his presence. So remember three things that he has said. If you want to please me, think of things that you will not hesitate to think in my presence. Speak words that you will not hesitate to speak in my presence. Do and act things that you will not hesitate to do and act in my presence. This would please me.
So if one can feel free to be themselves in his presence, then they can actually feel in turn to be free to obey. If they can actually feel free, they can be themselves, whatever that is. Because it seems that if a person can't really feel free to be themselves, then there's something of themselves that is not up front, even still. And then one cannot be wholehearted in their dealings with Baba.
No, one has to determine oneself. First, it all begins with whether you are his or not. One has to be determined. One has to resolve.
Baba put
every
it in
individual.
Well, I think he gives a person the opportunity. He gives them the opportunity to be themselves with him. But who can actually really be themselves with him? Because if one can actually feel they can be themselves, then there's nothing left but eventually but realizing your own self, the real self.
That is true.
That's what it actually opens up to.
Yeah. Because we are ourselves are the veil. That's what he has said. What did Baba say about
Baba said, think when some of the women marry in Europe, it's the very first Kabir श्लोक पद कहते निश्चय ऐसा कीजिए सब कुछ एक ही बार सब प्रभु का मेरा नहीं ये निश्चय विचार. That means including everything that you have.
The determination, that resolve must be there. First thing is there.
That's the first.
Yeah. That's where you begin.
Translate that, we sort of missed some of it.
निश्चय ऐसा कीजिए, determine, such a determination. Once and for all. निश्चय ऐसा कीजिए सब कुछ एक ही बार, just once and for all. Make this determination.
The determination should be the first and the last.
Determination
once
of
and for
one.
all.
That's what.
सब प्रभु का मेरा नहीं. All that I am belongs to God and not to me. That is the
first and the last determination.
Well,
then
that
you begin.
requires a resolve.
As he said, the important thing. The important thing is to be his. That's the first. Then everything applies relative to that point.
But to get to that commitment, where one is willing to commit
there's no compromise.
himself.
With Baba, there's no compromise.
But a person has to make that commitment.
It's
In other words, Baba can't make the commitment for them.
The person, that's right. But it's a natural thing. It's not, and there is no binding in any other way except...
No, I'm not saying that there's a binding. For the person that can make such a commitment, they've had to reach a certain point in themselves where they realize that it's safe to make that kind of commitment, that it actually is leading them to that experience.
That's a wrong attitude, Edward. To feel safe to make a commitment is a wrong attitude on the path. One needs a daring to do that.
A daring?
Yeah.
Well, one has to feel safe enough even to become daring.
There is no safety here. You have to lose yourself. You know that. The word safe should be out of your dictionary. Here you have to lose yourself. Here you have to plunge yourself. Here you have to drown yourself.
But you have to know something about what you're... In plunging yourself, you have to know what you're doing. You can't even plunge yourself unless you... There's a sense that there's something to plunge into.
First you have to hear.
Yes, but plunging...
I mean, how can a person plunge if they don't even know that there's something to plunge into?
Well, first you have to hear. He's backing up further. He's backing up much further.
I mean, there has to be a beginning
have to hear
point
Baba.
that you do feel some kind of a sense of... you have to trust what you're doing to a certain extent before you can even do anything.
You trust. So the first and foremost in everything boils down to this, to love Baba.
If you love,
and
yes.
that's all
if you
that
love.
is necessary.
Yeah, but that's if you love.
Well, if you don't, then where is the commitment? For what? What are you committing yourself for?
Well, Mani,
Well,
he's way
if you
back
love-
before this, before you've even heard of Baba, when you're looking for something. He's starting for the daring, for the fear to even look. I mean, that's a real fear in a lot of people. You don't dare to look because it hurts too much.
That was a few lives ago, huh?
See, I would say the connecting point between Baba and myself was when I felt him halfway around the world. And when I felt that, then I felt the connecting point, that there was a sense of, there was an actual cable between he and I. Somehow he bridged the cable.
Sure. That's
But
true with everything.
I couldn't give myself over to Baba unless I first felt that there was, that somebody had connected up with me somehow. Otherwise, I could take a plunge and nobody would be there unless he had opened up that opportunity. so that in other words, he opened up the fact that he was already there for me. And once he did that, then I could go through. And he was there. But before that, there wasn't anything there that I was conscious of, or that I was awake to. He actually had to awaken me to the fact that he was there.
He does.
No, we've gotten him as far as the beach, and this, we haven't gotten him to India yet.
That was the cable that made him do that.
Yeah, so when he strengthened that connection, so that I would realize that there was a road, and it was the road had some firmness to it, and I could begin to walk on it. But before that, I would say the road was there because of certain things that happened prior to that, but it was like, it was sort of still shaky, that road. He had to firm it up.
Isn't that the
And once he
awakening,
did,
that, isn't it?
Yes.
then once I felt the strength of his pull, that he was actually pulling, then there was something there that I could go to, you see. And I felt a strong enough pull inwardly.
Eddie, how long was the period from starting to feel something to where he just really knocked you out? How long was that kind of, that you don't really know if it's all the way, it's kind of this way. You know what I mean?
Oh, where?
Yeah,
I remember
shaky
the point of where he really knocked me out is when I was like in India.
Yeah, see, to me, it seems like from that point on, then you start having something solid. But from that point forward, when you're just starting to, when he finally decides to contact you or do something or make you feel something or somebody comes to you, I mean, all these stories that everybody tells. Till that point, I just was wondering how long that was for you. I mean, that seems like the most difficult part to even get through. Maybe not, I don't know, but you know what I mean? How long that was?
Yeah,
A
it
year
is
or
a
something?
difficult part because,
Is it about a year? Or
no, that
few months?
actually came gradual because, getting more to Baba, opening up more to him, in other words, I have to somehow believe. I was believing. I don't know how to explain it, but I was believing who he said he is. And because I was believing it, that I began to actually see what was there.
when did the love come? I mean, when did you feel love?
I would say at the point of, the first point, which was before that telegram, was when I had gone back to Miami, and I just started at a certain point then. After I read the book, I didn't think in terms of Baba being a master. Well, I didn't know what a master was, so I couldn't even relate to what a master is, except that I felt he was someone advanced, yes. But at the same time, I felt that the book made me feel that God was real. I mean, the fact that Baba could live that kind of life made me feel that God was real. The love that he demonstrated in his life, up to the point that he was still living. And after that, all I remember is that I felt God was real after I read the book. It sort of like pronounced the reality of God to me. And then after that, I remember, like some weeks later, like Baba's name seemed to just be coming into my mind. And I remember having like a good feeling. And I didn't know quite why that was happening. But then later on, like as a month or so passed, it seemed that I would be saying Baba's name to myself. And I noticed when I said his name that, I'd get a very pleasurable feeling. And the connecting point between Baba and I actually was when I was driving in a car. And suddenly I realized that nothing seemed to mean anything. Nothing seemed to be real. It's like nothing, in other words, at a certain point I read nothing made sense. That's what it was, nothing made sense. And anything I was doing, somehow it didn't make sense. And at that point I realized nothing seems to really make sense. And it seemed like at that moment I just felt I was like, I don't know, like alone. And I just realized I might as well have been like, I felt like in a vacuum. I realized I was just like an empty space. Not that I was experiencing a sense of a vacuum, but I realized there was nothing I could grab onto at that point. Nothing that was real. And at that point I had remembered the thought of Baba's name. And I said his name in my mind really strong twice. And at that point I just seemed to like something opened up, and I felt a happiness that was like it was like really like a sense of super happiness. And I just really felt happy. It's like my happiest moment had multiplied over quite a number of times, and I was just in a state that seemed to be sort of like a super sense of happiness. But I didn't really understand it, except that it was Baba's name. Somehow Baba's name produced something, an effect. That's all I knew. And then later on when see, that made me understand something at that point, because I realized then that even though he was halfway around the world, somehow through his name I could feel something. And then I understood what he meant when he said, like, I'm not the body, like I'm in everybody. In other words, he said, I'm everywhere. Then those words in the book started to have meaning to me, that his body was only an instrument. Till then I felt he was someone that was just advanced, and in that form, that body in India, and that's how I related to someone that was advanced. He just had a consciousness. But somehow we were sharing that consciousness on some level. And then I understood what he meant, that he was not the body, that he was everywhere. And then when I got that telegram from him, it explained to me how prior, just a few days before, how I was experiencing that presence of his. He opened up something in me, and when I received the telegram, then I understood why I was feeling that presence, for whatever that really was. But that he was reinforcing himself again. And I could feel like him at that point, that like he was in everything. I started to feel that. Although I could see that in people, they weren't like aware of that. But then again, there was a time when I wasn't aware of that. You see. So Bob was just opening me up to the fact that he was someone to be, somehow contended with. Someone really to be contended with. Because he was reaching me on a level that nobody had reached me before. You see. And I realized he could take me if he could continue on, I'd go further, reach higher levels. And
in the meantime, you're sort of left on a hook.
Well, we still haven't gotten Ed to the point where he's gotten to India.
No.
We're still on the beach.
Went in seclusion, and Baba had sent out orders to all that they should not correspond to him and all that. So naturally, these two boys, you see, they would write every now and then frequently, and I had to reply to them and all that, and I drew Baba's attention that here are the two who have been writing all the time when the whole world is silent. So Baba made me write to them saying that, well, you only let him know. Now, of course, I replied to them, the letter and all that, and at the end I said, now Baba wants you to stop writing, except when you have changed your address. So you know what these two boys did, trying to obey Baba's orders? They wanted to write to him naturally, every now and then. So you won't believe the number of times they changed their address.
Baba would appreciate
So it was another burden, you see, to remember the last address from where they wrote and the new address now. And I think last when Irwin or Edward came here, I said, "Dear boys, what made you change so many times? How could you find a house now so often? Within a fortnight they would change twice. You know, so why did you change this? Did the landlord drive you out? What has happened? You remember what Baba told us, that we couldn't write to him unless we changed the address, so we had to change so often. You recall that?
How can I forget?
In fact, after that, if anybody changed their address more frequently than they should, they're valuable.
Right. It's time for lunch, they said. Control system, huh? The story, Edward asks me whether there is any incident where one could have had any experience of Baba exercising his authority.
Actually, you know what I was really thinking is, is it drawn like the very finest line where the authority has its rightful place to be expressed, where it can have expression. In other words, Baba never used that authority.
So the story will depict it. You can draw the rightful line from it. So the story is that it takes us back long in the years in the 40s, you see, when Baba desired to be with his followers in North India at Rishikesh, and he told me to make arrangements for that, for the stay. So I made arrangements for the stay. There. And in Rishikesh there is a place called Divine Life Society. You know, there is an ashram called the Forest University. Is it so? Yeah. It belonged to Swami Shivananda at the time. And have you all heard of Swami Shivananda? Huh? Yeah. So Swami Shivananda was staying over there. You have heard of Swami Shivananda?
Who was his master?
Huh?
Who was his master?
That I don't know. But he was a retired medical officer who had come over there for meditating on the bank of the river Ganges, and he was a seeker. So when he stayed there for quite a number of days and weeks, you see, naturally people who began to see him, they thronged, they sat down and just gaped at him and looked at him, and they thought that, well, he's a good person, so they brought him food and all that. So then they used to sit there, and then naturally when he accepted something from them, he had to give in return. So what could he give? He could give words that he had gathered from others. So he started speaking about the truth, the words of. So when he gave them, then naturally they felt happy about it. So then years passed by, and then they made him a teacher, then they made him a master, then made him a perfect master. You see, it happens like that. So he was in that vicinity known as Swami Shivananda at the time when we went there. He had a big ashram and all that. Well, so when Baba wanted to stay there, it's not a small, it's a place not meant for a stay of. At that time, it was not meant for a place of stay. You see, for Baba's Western and Eastern disciples and all that. All Baba always, whenever he wanted us to make arrangements, he had his own way of living. So he wanted us to have arrangements according to how he wanted. He should feel at home, you see, at the place. So it was very difficult to find. Eventually I could somehow or other find some place through his help, but then I had to seek the help of the Swami Shivananda, you see, for utensils and for some little things and that. So he came to know that Meher Baba was coming here with his followers. Well, Meher Baba did arrive with his followers there and stayed there. So there is, Baba's place was on the other bank of the river, and his ashram was on the other bank of the river. There was a river that separated the two. every day I had to come from Baba's place, I was deputed to do marketing and all that. We stayed there for 40 days. So we had to do some marketing. We had to have our own kitchen, food and all that prepared. So I had to cross the river in a boat and go to the market and return with the market staff, So every day I used to go. One day, the boatman, the ferryman, we had our own boat there. It was along with the bungalow that we had hired. So the ferryman says to me, he says, sir, it's very difficult to live here. I said, yes, it is, because of the place and all that. He says, no. He says, there is a rumor that here is Meher Baba who has come, and he indulges in women and liquor and all sorts of things, you see. So I said, well, so what? It's a rumor means rumor. What has that to do? He says, no, but it's not good. The news is spreading from one lip to another lip and all that. So we should put an end to it. I said, but who started the rumor? This is from Shivananda's ashram. I said, how can it be? I am going there every now and then. He tells us, he accepts us as his friends and all that. He has got great love and regard for Meher Baba that I see from what he expresses. So how can that be possible? So I don't know, but I have been hearing it especially from the ashram. Well, I didn't give any countenance. I said, then why didn't you tell them when you hear such things? You have been the person who is hauling all this. So you know whether we carry liquor or women or anything of the sort. What do we do here? So he kept quiet, I kept quiet and completely forgot about it. Years passed by, you see, after some days of stay, 40 days of stay, as usual Baba left the place and we left the place. In between many things happened there. As I told you that beautiful story about the contact of that boy who had renounced the world at the time. Many things happened. So I completely forgot about it. Years passed by. Then Baba one day sat in this seclusion here in this blue bus, and then he thought of the plan that he is now going to leave the old world, old life and be in new life. So just before that, he had given instructions to a certain devotee of his to go to the Himalayas begging and not touching men or women or anything of the sort, lead a very austere life, just repeating his name, observe silence and all sorts of instructions were given. And he was told that after completing the circuit, he had to come and meet him. But now Baba was to leave for his new life. So there was no scope, no chance for him to come back and contact Baba. Baba, being mindful of the orders that he always gave to his devotees, he sent somebody from here to go and contact him and tell him that after he completed the circuit, his pilgrimage, he should not try to find Baba, because Baba will be now in new life. That's the end of it. And that Baba's nazar will be there, his grace is there, his blessings are there, he shouldn't worry about it. Well, this man goes out in search of that man, and Baba goes out in new life. So the man goes out in search of that person, you see. And this man means Balnatu was deputed at the time. He was the one. So he himself was a rickety person at the time. Of course he is so weak even now, but at that time he was very, very weak. So he goes out praying to Baba to help him to find the man there in the mountainous region where he could be and all that. So that's another story. You'll read it in the glimpses. The book is about to be printed now. So it so happened that he goes out in search, and eventually by Baba's grace or help, whatever you call it, he contacted the person. He conveyed the message of Baba. He was very happy and he was so relaxed, you see. He thought that he would die on the way. He was so very weak, Balnath, at the time. But he succeeded in conveying the message and returning. On his way back, Swami Shivananda's ashram is there. So he wanted to retire for the night, overnight stay. So he came and sat there. On the bank of the river, the ashram is built. So he tries to find a place, he requests, he says, all right, you can put up there for the night on the veranda there. So he was seated there. It was moonlight night and he was there. All of a sudden, late evening, you see, Shivananda comes there and looks at him and says, who are you? He gets up, he salutes him with reverence, because Baba had always told us to be very reverent to all the people, you see, and to be humble before everybody. So he salutes him, says, well, I was carrying a message of Meher Baba to some devotee of his in the Himalayas, and I just returned from it. Oh, he says, you are from Meher Baba? He says, yes. That man who drinks a lot and who is always with the women, says, it won't do you any good. So Balnathu had nothing to say. So then he started exhorting him, says how the best thing for him to do is to change his course and to come to his ashram every now and then, and to come to him every now and then and all that. So he says, and take his blessings and all. He says, I have been hearing that all the seekers and the lovers and the masters of the Lord are the beloved children of Meher Baba. And I am just a slave. And I know one thing, Meher Baba has told me, that anything that is wished by his beloved children can be fulfilled. So whatever he be, I beg of you to bless me, that I may not leave ever. Please bless me. I don't care whether he's a drunkard or whether he leads a debaucherous life or this or that. I don't care what he is, the Lord. I don't mind whatever he does. All that I would like you to do is to bless me, that I may not leave him ever, never, never. All that. So he was dumbfounded, he didn't know what to say now. So he kept quiet, he said, well, have your own way, and he left. Balnathu started thinking, you see, what is this? He's supposed to be a great person, the world recognizes him as the master, in the sense, the world of these people, you know. And what has happened to him all of a sudden? Well, he keeps quiet over it. We are wandering in the new life with Baba. He has fulfilled the commission, you see, and he continues with his job. He's a teacher, school teacher. So everything was peaceful and quiet till one day after our wanderings in new life, and when Baba completed his manonage, and then when he went to the west, Baba deputed Pendu and myself to go out in India and give out his message. So from place to place we went to his place. Somewhere he met us. So he told us about it. He told me, I asked him about what did he happen to contact a person, how was his health, is he all right, was it very difficult for him to contact him. He told me all that story, and in addition to that he told me what he experienced that night. Again it clicked, you see, what the boatman had said. After so many years, you see, after a gap of so many years, it clicked again. So, yes, the boatman did tell me that. And so the rumors were coming from that, radiating from that quarter. It's unbelievable, I said. Well, it just clicked, that's all. And I completely forgot. Who cares for such things? Years passed by again. After some years, we were again in North India with Baba. And all of a sudden there came in the papers that all world religious conference is to be held in Rishikesh. And that, what's the name of that person? Yogi Shuddhanand Bharatiya is the one who will preside. He'll be the president for that conference. So, well, as I have told you, there are some times, you see, and intervals in Baba's daily routine, where he calls for bogus news to be read. So the newspaper, he calls them bogus news. So, well, I opened the paper and I read that. So immediately Baba dictated, was he using the board at the time? I don't remember now, whatever it be. So he said, I think he was using it. So he said, with gestures, he conveyed that all this will never help humanity at all. Why do they unnecessarily go in for such things? These religious conferences, will they ever bring about any understanding in them? So he said, all right, he told me, look here, so take this message and go to Shivananda and convey to him that we speak now. We have to tell him what we think about it. You see how he was all the time. So then I am sent again to Rishikesh. It's very close, about 30 miles or something like that, from Dehra Dun. So Pendu and I again go. He recognizes, in the meantime when he asks me to go and convey to him what transpired here this morning after reading that bogus news and what message he gave me, so I immediately thought of that, of the two incidents, you see, Balnathu's story and the story that the boatman told me and all that. I said, such is the thing, Baba, that I have been hearing for many years now. So he says, well, it's time, the time has come, he said. All right, so do one thing, he says. Now that you are going there, take an appointment from him. I want to see him personally. So he told me that I must go and take an appointment first, fix a day and time. And that there should be no, reception or anything of the sort. Complete silence on the score, you see. Nobody should give out in the papers or anything of the sort. All right. And then give this message, Baba told me. We went. We had to carry out Baba's order. So Pendu and I both go there. Well, I meet him and he meets me. He's happy to see me. He expresses happiness and all that. He recognizes me and I am there. I said, I have come with Baba's personal message and it is to be given to you in person. Never mind, give it here. What's the message? Knowing the import of the message, I was reluctant to give it because it's not proper to give it before his people. So I said, Baba wants it to be given to you in person, so it is better to, adhere to Baba's wishes. So he says, wait for some time. Will you be able to wait for half an hour till I finish this office routine? He was seated in the office chair, you see. And there were typists there on 2 rows and he was dictating something and all that. So yes, we are not in a hurry to go. So he called for tea and biscuits and all that. Well, it was difficult for us to decide whether we should accept his tea and biscuits now because we had such a message to be conveyed to him. Well, whatever it is. I said that, come on now, it's offered and it's time for tea, we must have tea and biscuits. So we had it. We did have it.
Was Shivananda was going to be the head of this religious conference?
He had invited this conference at his place there, and Swami Shivananda Bharatiya of Adiyar ashram, he was a Mahayogi who was to preside over this. You know that fellow who is in ochre color robe and Elizabeth is there by Baba's side and East was gathering pictures here? So that's how he became the follower, because now the sequel to the story will be all that. In one throwing one stone, he killed so many birds, you see, or got so many birds into his snare. So what happened is that now we wait. We are having tea and biscuits and we wait. So then after about 20 minutes or so, he says, come on, it's finished, let's go. So he again turns to me and says, yes, what's the message now, tell me. It's of personal nature, it's only meant for you. It's best that we have you and not these people here. Oh, he says, all right, so let's go out. So we all, 3 of us went out. And of course he sat down and we sat down and faced him, not knowing that there is a retinue of his people behind us. We didn't know that. They came later on, they flocked. So, well, first of all I said that Meher Baba wishes to come and pay a visit to this place. He says, what a glorious day it will be when he visits this place. I said, yes, it will be so, but he says that there should be no reception or nothing. I said, how can it be? He's visiting it for the first time. He was here, he never stepped inside. He was here some years ago, and he comes so often over here. He doesn't come, and it's a great day for us, and we will receive him with great pomp. And I said, nothing doing. That's his wish. He doesn't want anything. He has some special work with you. So he doesn't want it to be advertised. Nobody should know about it. Nothing of this stuff. All right. His wish, he said. So I said, please fix the day and time of his arrival here. So he fixed a date. He fixed the time and everything was there. And I said, Baba has told you, once you fix this date, this time, whatever be the circumstances, you should not change it. So he says, all right, there's no need why we should change it, we'll stick to it. So I said, good. Then I said, Baba has sent me with this message, personal message also, and I gave that message with the same force and everything that he wanted me to convey. It was a very drastic message. It was short, but the purport of it was just this, that all these religious conferences and whatever conferences you all call will never help humanity in the least bit to come to an understanding amongst themselves. Because these are all man-made religions and so forth. The religion of God is love, and unless and until love is instilled in the hearts of humanity, nothing can be done. And I have come to give that love some sort. I forget now what it is. So, he got a shock because the religious conference was just a fortnight ahead to be held, you see. So I said, that is the purport of the message and I am just now leaving. Give us leave. So he said, is that all? And he tried to get up and he couldn't get up. So what happened was, something happened below his waist. He couldn't get up, he couldn't move his limbs. Pendu looked, I was all the time delivering, I didn't know what was happening. You see. Pendu had already seen at the back. I was all the time talking with Shivananda. Pendu had come to escort me. So Pendu had looked that there was a crowd there, and here such a thing has happened. So Pendu tells me in Gujarati, now don't go on jabbering, I'll leave immediately. I said, why is Pendu saying such a thing? I don't know. So it so happened that Pendu wanted us to leave. So we left. I said, now it's time that we leave. And he tried to get up, but he could not. This much I could notice. I said, well, after all, he's aged and heavy-bodied. So it always happens to me also. Sometimes you get pins and needles and all that. So we just paid our respects and we left. But Pendu, when he comes out, he says, do you know what has happened? I said, what has happened? So there's something wrong with him, intrinsic, something has gone wrong with him, he can't now, he won't be able to walk. I said, why do you say that? He said, didn't you see? I said, no. So it had happened according to what Pendu had observed. I had not observed. I was so engrossed in telling him the message and other things that were on my mind, you see. So whatever it is, I left the place, Pendu with me, and we went and reported this incident to Baba. Now when I reported this incident to Baba, Baba, instead of just saying yes or no, keeping quiet over it, he's so concerned about it for his beloved child. He says, go back and tell him not to worry about it. That there will be the religious conference will be held properly and you will be able to conduct it and nothing will go wrong and my nazar will be on you, my grace will be on you and all that. Well, we had to carry out his command. So we go. So I went all by myself. And there the secretary, the secretary there tells me, to why had I come? I said, well, there's a message from Meher Baba. He says, look here, one message is enough to make him this, you see. He's lying in bed now. Why? What is all this going on? And we are very busy with this conference here. I said, yes.